Good day, everyone. My name is Sofia Lois Tularca, and this is my partner,
Jason L. Perez Jr.
In this video, we are going to discuss
about Mannerism.
Mannerism is an art movement and style in Europe around the 1520s or at the end of the High Renaissance era. It is more commonly known as the Late Renaissance. The word Mannerism comes from the Italian word maniera, which means style. This style originated in Florence and Rome and then spread to northern Italy and Europe. The reason for the creation of this term was that the people of this period found it difficult to relate it to the art of the Renaissance period since their styles were dissimilar. Mannerism has often been called the stylish style because it was exaggerated and contorted, and its spirit was tenser and more disturbed than the peaceful, harmonious compositions of the High Renaissance. For reference, this is a painting during High Renaissance which I think all of us know, the Mona Lisa, compared to the painting Madonna with the long neck of the Mannerism. Here, we can also compare the difference of the sculptures made in the eras of Renaissance and Mannerism. We can also see how Mannerism is incorporated in their structures and architectures. Mannerism painting and sculpting compositions did not care about perspective or proportions like the Renaissance artists did. As the Mannerism artists reject the classical and Renaissance era, their works also tended to be more artificial. It is more artificial because of how the human bodies in Mannerism would be twisted and in different forms. The bodies and the poses in Mannerism art seem to be artificial or unnatural. This results in the work appearing strange and unsettling.
Now moving on to the history of the Mannerism period. The Mannerist period sought to explore forms of representation by experimenting with composition and form while pushing the boundaries of realism. This resulted in paintings featuring elongated proportions, complex compositions, exaggerated features, and dramatic lighting effects. There are two distinct varieties of Mannerist painting. First is the early Mannerism, which is 1520 to 1535, which is recognized for its anti-classical or anti-Renaissance aesthetic. And second is the High Mannerism, which is 1535 to 1580, which is more complex, introspective, and intellectual, intended to appeal to more wealthy customers. Now, the influence of the printing press. The introduction of printmaking was one of the factors that contributed to the change in style, which meant that the images of Michelangelo's artworks were spread throughout Italy, inspiring the collective imagination. The achievements of artists such as Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci meant that there was a newfound admiration for other artists and also the public. Younger artists were influenced by Michelangelo's nude figures and attempted to recreate his style in their own works. Next is the new religious ideas. The Protestant Reformation had a significant impact on the art of the Mannerism period. Mannerist artists sought to express their own unique interpretations of Christian subjects, often expressing spiritual truths. As Protestant ideals grew throughout Europe, Mannerist artists such as Parmigianino began to glorify more secular themes such as love and passion through their works. Furthermore, the Roman Catholic Church felt threatened by the rise of Protestantism. The Church used art as a medium to retain their presence and dominance by funding works by Mannerist artists. Next is how 16th century scientific discoveries affected Mannerism. The scientific discoveries of the 16th century, such as Copernicus' observation that the sun is the center of our universe and the discovery of the Americas by Columbus, had a huge influence on Mannerist painters. This new knowledge allowed artists to break away from humanist ideals and encourage them to embrace more innovative and intellectual themes. Advances in anatomy and optics during the Mannerism period enabled a more accurate representation of figures and space in painting. Exaggerated proportions and dramatic poses were done with the intention of eliciting an emotional response from the viewer. It also provided an opportunity to explore themes related to political, power, religious ritual, status symbols, and societal issues. Mannerist painters were able to make powerful statements about human life and give voice to what many people at the time felt could not be said openly.
Who are the famous proponents or artists during this period, and what inspired them to create or begin such artworks? First, we have Parmigianino. Parmigianino was the leading painter of Palma, an eccentric but technically adept virtuoso who also worked in Rome and Bologna. Parmigianino's works was notable for the freedom of his brushstrokes, his elegant decorative schemes, and a subtle rendering of spatial incongruity and elongated human figures. He was drawn to the idea of the supernatural rather than the natural, but his art managed the fine balancing act between expressive splendor and technical control. Second is Giorgio Vasari. Born in Arezzo, Italy in 1511, Vasari trained to become a painter under the tutelage of Florence's preeminent Mannerist artist, Andrea del Sarto. He specialized in creating large-scale works, characterized by the intricate details and vivid depiction of emotion. Through his bold use of color and unique methodological approach to painting, Vasari pioneered Mannerism as a movement that reached beyond traditional Renaissance values and questioned previously accepted boundaries for art.
Now for the third artist, Jacopo Tintoretto. Jacopo Tintoretto was a prominent Mannerist artist of the 16th century. He was born in Venice and is best known for his large-scale works depicting religious subjects. Tintoretto worked in an expressive Mannerist style characterized by intense drama, vivid colors, and dramatic use of composition and perspective. His art was inspired by classical sources and mythology, which had an immense influence on art history as a whole, inspiring other artists to experiment with scale, imagery, and compositional techniques to create new means of visual expression.
I hope you learned something from this video.
Thank you everyone for listening and watching.
Bye-bye.